So what should Auburn's goals be for the rest of the season?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. This bonus show is a conversation with our guy, Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika this morning. We went on his show earlier this week. Here we go.
Payton Thorne had an interesting take. He's an upperclassman. He will not be here next year. Holden Gardner's not going to be here next year, but he's not an upperclassman, but still. But it's weird to think, because I've always wondered this, and somebody finally asked him this, is when you get to this point in the season, I mean, 2-4 right now is where the Auburn Tigers sit. Zach, what do they do now? Because if you're a guy that's moving on like him, how do you stay focused?
Yeah. Payton Thorne, of course, Auburn quarterback, joined the next round for his weekly visit. And they asked him just that, Ben. I thought it was interesting because, as fans and as media, we're already kind of thinking, okay, well, why not just do what's best for the direction of the program, play all these young guys, so, hey, maybe you can get a leg up in preparation for next year. Mm-hmm. Well, Payton Thorne was asked that question. He's like, well, for the direction of the program, I guess that makes sense. But he's like, I'm not going to be here next year. Look, I care about this program and I wanted to succeed in the future, but there's a lot of upperclassmen, himself included. They're like, hey, this is all we got. This is all we got. I mean, I think Auburn's got a lot of upperclassmen that aren't going to play at the next level. And you look at a big chunk of the defense, and you got some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball there too. And it's just, I get it. I get where they're coming from. And so obviously your goal going into it is to make the college football playoff. That should be everyone's goal, whether it's realistic or not. That's what you got to believe in your locker room. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, even if we went out, we're 8-4. And it's like, we're not going to the playoff with that. So it's a week by week thing. That's probably the best way to look at it, is to look at every single game as, a 1-game season. That's just kind of hard to do mentally at this point. It has to be, because you've lost some games that you probably feel like you shouldn't have. And I don't know how you come back from that. I think the bye week came at a good time, Ben. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah. But, when your goals have to shift that drastically at the point of the bye week, where we were talking about, hey, could Auburn be 5-0 going into Georgia, 5-1 going into their bye week all summer? And I mean, the fact of the matter is you're nowhere close to that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You made a good point right there that a lot of these guys are going to have to say, this is it for us because of that next level. It's always easy for a coach that maybe not having the best of years, or a team or a program not having the best of years, to say, look, you still got an opportunity to put stuff on tape. Like, these scouts are still watching. They're still seeing what you're doing. Put stuff on tape. A lot of Auburn's upperclassmen, they can put as much as they want on tape. They may go play Canadian football or XFL or something, but as far as being in the league, unless it's a practice squad, it's a tough reach. And you and I have talked about that. As far as, I mean, you look at the guys that are in the league. I mean, even guys that were stars in college may not be playing on Sunday. So
and Auburn has some upperclassmen that are going to be fringe guys, like Eugene Asante. Mm-hmm. Can Austin Keys make a statement? Possibly. Jalen McLeod. They've got some guys, Kendra Lambert-Smith. You got to think he's helped his stock this year. I think he's been exceptional. Rivaldo Fairweather, like, he's probably playing for some draft equity. So there are some guys up there, Isaiah Rakes, Jason Jones, these guys that are getting like true quality reps. But I doubt, as a coach, like, I don't think that needs to be your sales pitch. You may know that in the back of your mind. Like, that probably doesn't need to be discussed, because there is personal pride on the line here. We hope there's that level of personal pride. And based off of the players that I've talked to, I do think that that's there. So yeah, but then also, like, does that raise the question of, okay, we're trying to build this culture. Hugh Freeze is trying to build this culture of playing for one another. And then it's like, well, I don't really have anything to play for at this point except for myself. That may not be a good thing, Ben.
I don't think it's a good thing. That's what, when you said you want to talk about this, I was sitting there thinking, I think this could absolutely destroy a locker room in the next couple of weeks, at least from an upperclassman standpoint. And the reason being is because, let's call it what it is. Missouri's going to be a tough get. It's at Mizzou. Kentucky's going to be a tough get. You still got Alabama that's looming as well. So as far as I know, he threw that positive energy out there in that interview, did Payton Thorne. Hey, we've talked about it. If we win out, we're 8-4. Even if we get to 6 wins, we got the bowl game, we can still put stuff on tape and that kind of thing. But let's look at realistics here. I mean, Auburn right now has to get a Power 5 win, period. That hasn't happened yet. And so at what point, let's just say Auburn stubs their toe. Let's say the goals just go south big time and they stub their toe the next couple of weeks, and you're looking at 2-6 instead of 2-4.
Oh my goodness.
Then what?
That's realistic, right? Like Auburn is probably not going to be favored. I mean, they're a 5.5-point dog as we record this going into Missouri, and they probably won't be favored against Kentucky either, unless they really show up this weekend. Maybe that does something. But I mean, odds are they're not going to be favored in either of these games. So I mean, 2-6 is a realistic option. You could say that it's the most realistic option, most likely option, which stinks. I'm predicting Auburn to win one of these two. But most people are going to pick Auburn to go 0-2 in these, outside of Auburn, and you can't fault them for it. But yeah, I mean, as far as the recalibrated goal that the fan base has made, and you got to think the locker room is there to some point, just because 6 wins means you can go play in a bowl game. You're running out of time. Yeah. Like if you lose too many more of these and you don't figure it out and you can't close a game despite keeping it close, like you're running out of time, Ben. I mean, that's not a crazy take.
Let's talk about some new goals here momentarily.
Okay. All right. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. Ben, right now, it's Auburn plus 5.5. You taking the Tigers of Auburn plus the points, or you thinking Missouri covers by winning by at least 6?
I'm taking Auburn to cover and probably win. And then I don't know what the line is for Auburn, Kentucky, but I actually am taking Kentucky. I'm with you, like you said before. I'm 1-2 out of the next, or 1-1 out of the next 2 games.
Yeah. I like Auburn money line is plus 160 right now at FanDuel. So if you feel good about the Tigers, now would be the time to do that. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Ben, just a quick question. When you buy a ticket to an event, you want to pay more money or less money?
No money.
Or no money, which the closest thing to no money is less money. That's right. That's right. Hey, I went to the Pats-Texans game this past weekend, bought our tickets with Game Time, and it was a blast. It was a blast. And we sat in our seats with such confidence knowing we got the best deal possible for them. And so you can be sure to check that out with Game Time Picks. The curation makes it easier to save money on sports, concerts, comedy, the theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Game time. Yeah, Ben, you mentioned goals for this Auburn team. And I mean, Payton Thorne's perspective on it is like, this is all we got. Like it stinks, but also it's like, this is a results-based business. Like you've got to win games, and you guys didn't do that to start the season. And so like you're in an unfortunate situation. But if you're this coaching staff and you're this fan base, there is this balance of like, sure, like we want to win 6 games. We want to go to a bowl game so the season lasts a little bit longer. You get those extra practices. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, I think Auburn fans, the average Auburn fan, would prefer to see more young guys in there more often. So at least there's something to get excited about in the future. At least that's where I am.
Where I am right now is when I talk about new goals, I think that goes for both players and coaches.
Okay.
And the reason being is because with players, as we said, if it goes south, players are, I think upperclassmen will start shutting down a little bit. So then I think the goals as a staff has to go more towards what the fans are asking for, because why do kids transfer? Because they don't get playing time. So some of these studs that you've recruited that have 4 and 5 stars out beside them, let's make sure they're on the field and get that playing time so they're not jumping at a transfer portal and chasing both money and playing time. I know everybody always talks about, oh, they went there because they paid them this or they paid. No, they went there because they told them they're going to play more. I mean, we talked about, yesterday I talked about the receiver for Alabama that caught the 4th and 31 that's now at Texas.
Right.
He wasn't getting a ton of playing time at Alabama. Yes, he caught one of the most historic catches in the rivalry that you'll ever see, but he's on the field at Texas about every other down now. So he went for playing time, not for money. And I think that you could have that happen if some of these kids don't start seeing the field. They may start getting curious and get a wandering eye when it gets portal date time. So I think that the staff's goals will change in that direction if things start to head south.
Yeah. Isaiah Bond is who you're mentioning, and he's doing well at Texas. So, I'm with you. And that's been a narrative that's happened this week. And Hugh Freeze kind of leaned into that a little bit at his press conference earlier in the week about how we are playing a bunch of freshmen. Auburn leads the country in like defensive snaps from a freshman. Yeah. Then leads the SEC in just total snaps from freshmen, which is great. I think they need to lean into that more, because I don't even think in some cases, I don't even think it's a thing of like, let's pander to the younger guys because we want them to stay. I think they're the best players at their positions. Yes. I mean, you look at DeMarcus Riddick, he's the best linebacker on this roster right now. If you just look at this year in a vacuum, it's DeMarcus Riddick and Dorian Mausi. I know we all love Eugene Asante. There's no question about it. But as far as play on the field right now, I think those two guys are the best guys at that position. Malik Blockton, same thing. Jay Crawford at corner, same thing. Caleb Harris at safety, same thing. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. I mean, there's so many guys where it's not just this coaching staff saying, hey, we want to keep you happy. It's, hey, we want to win. And the fact of the matter is, like, we need you. Yeah. We need you day one. And I think that is important here.
You mentioned Riddick. Zach, I go as far as to say there's sometimes where on the field, depending on the situation, he may be the best athlete on the field.
Sure.
Even even across the line from the opposing offense, he may be the best athlete on the field. So, you don't have to keep him happy, because we need him to keep Auburn fans happy, just so he actually shows up and shows out, because he's one of the positive spots. I guess one of the good things that probably came about from this off weekend is, I guess there was a picture floating around where a lot of the young receivers, the Freeze 4 or Freeze 5 or whatever you want to call it, they went down to Foley with Perry Thompson and went to a game. I think that says a lot. I think that was good optics if you're an Auburn fan, because those are the ones that everybody keeps going, we got to keep these guys happy. They may leave. Mm-hmm. I think they are happy. I think they'd be happier if they were winning football games. I think they like where they are. I think they like Auburn. I think they like the staff. I think they like the direction the program's headed. They're just not seeing the results that they were hoping that they would see at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think Auburn's in a prime spot to stack some consecutive top 8 classes, as they were 8 last year. I think they'll finish in the top 8 this year, probably top 5. They're 3 right now. We'll see if they can close it out. But yeah, I still think the future of this program is fine. And I think when you talk about what Hugh Freeze has said about the future of the program and building it the right way, I know Auburn fans roll their eyes at it, but I think he's telling the truth. Like, I don't think this is some crazy reach. Especially when you look at the teams throughout college football that have built it through the transfer portal and just microwave it, zap it for 30 seconds and hope the meal's hot enough. You look at what Ole Miss has done. They were kind of playoff or bust, and now they're sitting here with losses to LSU and to Kentucky, but they still have Georgia left on their schedule. Like, that's a tough spot to be in. They were talking about how this was the best roster in the history of the program, and it probably is. But we all know that just because you have the best roster in the history of the program, it doesn't mean it's the best team in the history of your program. Colorado's another one. Colorado dropped a tough one to, was it Kansas or Kansas State?
Kansas State. Yep.
Last week. And, that's a team that was kind of built through the transfer portal and they're about to lose their all-star quarterback, and then, Travis Hunter may be the first pick in the draft. And it's like, well, how do you reload after that? I don't know if you can. And so you're going to see all of these teams that kind of went all in and pushed all their chips into the table, because that's one of the things you could do with the portal. And if you don't hit your goals, if you don't hit these super high goals of making the playoff, you don't really have anything to fall back on. At least with this and building that's what a foundation is. Yeah. That's what a foundation is in all of this. And so to me, like, sure, Auburn aimed high this year and it appears that they're going to miss it, but at least the foundation is stronger now than it was a year ago.
I like the trend that Hugh and staff are going through. First year in, 21 transfers in. That goes down to 15 after that. Looking at this next year, that probably goes down to 9 or 8 after that.
Yeah, it depends on how many defensive linemen they have.
Right. And I really I think that is the recipe for success. And I say that because I used the examples earlier this week with Charlie Five when he visited with me. And the example that I used is Cam Newton. That was pre-transfer portal. But look how it changed the program when he came in. Look how it changed the program when he left the year after. Same thing when you start looking at other stars that have transferred in and was able to be used by Malzahn at the time. And yeah, great year. Next year, 6 wins because they're gone. One and done. The one and done thing doesn't work. Doesn't work to me in basketball. It definitely does not work for me in football, because football is more of a team sport because you got 11 out there at the same time. So, or if you're Oregon, you put 12 out there at the same time, and you can use that to your advantage to draw somebody to kill some clock. But it was a genius. It was a genius.
Well done,
move.
Dan Lanning. Well done.
It was a genius move. So, I like.
And his smile when he answers that is just so like, he's like, yeah, I'm proud of myself. What about it? What about it? Hey, good for you. Good for you.
Listen, Gus did that every year to Nick Saban. He found some sort of loophole in order to make something happen. So I think it's genius to do stuff like that. Use the rules to your advantage. I say that all the time. So
no question.
But yeah, I think the foundation, what Hugh's doing, the 21 to 15 to maybe 9 or 10 now, and have all these 4 and 5 stars that are coming in. Listen, this isn't a one and done thing. This isn't basketball. These guys can come in, build a foundation. They're going to be here for 3 years. These freshmen, by the time they get to their 3rd year before they go pro, goodness gracious, Zach, they could be a very solid team around them.
Yeah, I think they're close. I think they're close. They've got to figure some things out at quarterback, and they got to figure out some things as far as just culturally. They've got to be able to close, and that may just happen with these guys getting reps. So we'll see. We'll see. Hey, Ben, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Monday through Friday, 6A to 9A. We do sports at 7. Auburn Opelika this morning. Catch it online as well by clicking on the logo at aunetwork.com, and catch me live there as well.
Yep. Hey, and you can check out Locked on Auburn wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.